to start from the top line, baby, and really cook, honey. All right, ready?
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it.
On Retro Rock.
Live, I'm an angel in the mornings.
Are you really?
Yeah, I look like an angel, and then I wake up and I think I look in the mirror and I see the devil.
Well, at least that's what everybody else says. Now, listen, if I said to you, jump in my car, let's crack open it. Draco, shush.
Yeah, all right.
Crack open a Jamaican rum.
All right.
Let's go down to the Ducktown Strutters Ball.
Yep.
Would you know what I'm talking about?
TMG.
TMG.
TMG, can't half knock that one.
I know.
Hey, if you
Mate,
didn't,
you
there's
must
something
be-
wrong with you.
Well, you'd be crazy.
Or you were asleep through the time, the 70s and 80s.
Well, guess what?
What?
We have one of the founding members on the phone ready to
Do we
have a
now?
chat to us.
Do we
We
now?
do.
Hello?
Waiting to have a chat to us on the phone.
Yes?
His name is Herm.
G'day,
Herm, welcome to Retro Rock Live. How you going?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Oh, absolutely sensational and wonderful to have a chat.
Great.
G'day, Herm. How are you? It's good to talk to you again, mate.
That's Ben
How are
over
you,
there.
mate?
It's Ben, mate. How are you?
Good.
Mate, well, thank you very much for your time and having a chat to us at Retro Rock Live.
That's fine. It's a pleasure.
Oh, excellent, excellent. How's it feel being back on the road after
Yes.
taking a break for such a long time?
16 years, I think it was.
You're not.
It's a long time between drinks.
You're not singing the Willie
It might
Nelson.
have been longer because Ted was sick for over a year, so we didn't play then.
Yep.
And then he passed away in 2001, and I haven't played drums since. And then I sort of had to learn to play again, basically. People used to say, oh, it's like riding a bike. Yeah, well, I ride a bike, but there's some hills I can't get over now that I used to be able to get over.
Mate, I know what you're feeling. I picked up the guitar again to start playing it, and I tell you what, some of those chords, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right.
Not a
Sure.
chance.
No.
Well, see, Les, he's like Gary. He's fine. He's played in cover bands, so he's still been playing. Les has done some session guitar work here and there, but he's had to learn every single solo and all that because I made it clear that when we went back on the road and people were paying good money for tickets, we weren't just going to wing it and just be these pathetic people just trying to play the songs. They had to sound like the record, all the solos, everything sounds, use the same Marshalls, and we do 90 minutes, not just 50 minutes or 40 minutes,
Wow.
Well, you're not referring to anybody in particular, are you?
No, I've just been to see some bands and been disappointed when there's only been like one original guy and they've only played for 45 minutes and they've just winged it. You can see that they haven't really put much work into it.
Oh, fair enough. Let's go back to those Helicon days when you guys first got together.
Yeah,
you started doing all the pub gigs, the club gigs and all that sort of thing. Did you think back then that you'd still, realistically, still be going now, even though it's been such a hiatus?
Nah, not in a minute. Even when we were together, I'd say to Ted, "There's no way I'm going to be doing this when we're 30 and we're in our 20s, in the 30s. There's no way we're going to do this in our 40s." And then I distinctly remember playing up in Brisbane, and we were about to start, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, because he was a few years older than me, I said, "What's it like playing when you're 50, Ted?" Because it was his 50th birthday. And after that gig, he bloody said, "You little bugger," he said, that was like pushing bricks up the hill. He said, all I could think about was my age,
You're a cruel man, you know that.
You're a bugger, aren't you?
Yeah, but anyway, so, it's pretty amazing to think. I would not have thought, even when Ted passed away and I said, well, that's it, I'm not doing it anymore. I never thought I'd be doing this again,
No, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. How did Steve come about, approaching you guys to say, hey, listen, let's give this a whirl?
Well,
again?
it wasn't Steve, actually.
Oh, wasn't it?
No, I had to approach him. It's the other way around.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're the one who decided, oh, damn it, I've got to start learning the drums.
It was Tony from Harbour kept saying, look, you've got to get together and do some gigs. I said, why? And he said, because, you guys, well, blah, 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 you should do it. And I said, well, we haven't got a singer. And he said, well, the Angels don't have their singer. They're out there getting good crowds. Dragon don't have their singer. They're out there getting their good crowds. My Sex.
Yeah.
He said, the thing with you guys, you've got 3 members. He said, Dragon have only got 1. You've got 3. And then he said, I just saw Steve Mulry playing at a gig the other night if you could get Steve, at least it's the Mulry name. It's, you know, he's part of the DNA. So I said, I don't know. And he kept telling me. And then when he said, well, can you do, this was last year, can you do 2 trial shows to see, can you do a trial show to see if you like it? I said, mate, it's a lot of work to do one trial show because we're not just going to get up there and just jam. We've got to rehearse, and I haven't played drums. I've got to learn drums, and then that's when, you know, it comes around Ted's anniversary of passing away on his birthday, because he passed away the day before his birthday. Fans from interstate come up to the memorial, and they go to a pub and have a barbecue and all this. And then I said, well, look, these fans come up in September as well as doing the bridge. Let's just do a gig for them so that all the work we've put into the trial gig hasn't gone to waste. We've got 2 gigs. So, you know, both shows were sell out. And then when people had heard that we did Revesby like last year, other clubs started, oh, look, we wouldn't mind the band. So it just went from there. And then Steve was interested, but Ted played bass and Steve doesn't.
Yes.
And so I just thought, well, we need a bass player. And the first person to come to our mind was someone that we've been friends with way in the early days of Alberts, was Mark Evans from AC/DC, and he just said yes straight away, you know. So
yeah, I've seen Steve perform as part of a couple of mixed groups. The last time I actually saw him perform, I think, was the Oz Rock Road Show, and before that
was the one that the agency had told me you'd just seen Steve, you know.
Yeah, and that was an absolutely sensational. Before that, I saw him at a Doc Neeson birthday party, which was at Rudy Hill a year and a half ago, I think it was, something around about that. It was January the 4th last year, I think, and he just blew me away. If you closed your eyes, you'd swear it was Ted up there. So I thought, you know, if you guys ever got back together, this was going to be a lay-down misere about getting him up front.
Well, it was funny because the weekend that Tony from Harbour had seen Ted and the penny dropped, he came to his office and there was an email from me which had nothing to do with the band. I was managing a country artist, so it had to do with that. And he said, Herm Kovac. He said, hang on, that's Ted Mulry Gang, you know. And then he thought of, he'd just seen Steve, and it all came, in his mind, it came together. He went online and saw all the hits we'd had and everything like that, and said, right, you've got to do this, guys. Yeah,
and I suppose, as the saying goes, you know, the rest is history from there. Back in those early days, though, did you realise what sort of footprint you were leaving on Australian music, or was it just hope for the best?
Oh, yeah, it was just hope for the best. Look, I knew from then the bands didn't last forever.
Yeah.
And I could see other bands spending money like it was going out of style, so we made sure we got houses straight away in that first year.
Yeah.
And also, I knew it wouldn't last forever, and that's why Les and I built a recording studio, and we had that going while we were still touring, so it would look after itself. So by the time we stopped touring, it would have been established for us to make a living from, you know?
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so I knew it wasn't going to last. I was stunned that we were actually together for 28 years, you know, before it did. And it was just Ted passing that actually... Because to be honest, probably had Ted not passed away, we'd probably still be doing it with Ted.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. Look, you guys really got along. You can see that in the...
he was my best mate, so we all got on really well. And when we had our first rehearsal with this lineup to see if it's going to, you know...
See if it's going to work.
We better rehearse. It was a 4-hour rehearsal, and we spent 3 hours laughing and probably an hour rehearsing, and that's when I thought, oh, well, this is going to work, you know.
So how does it feel, honestly, having Steve there, knowing that, you know, because he's a Mulry, you know what I mean? And he's got the sound of, it's very close to his brother, you know?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have worked if we had have got another singer, if it was a well-known singer. Then they'd have their agenda, and people would look up at that singer and just think of them and their history.
Yeah.
And getting another unknown and not worth it, but because it's Ted's brother, and it just works. It just made sense. And we've known him since he was about 10 anyway, so we've known him for a long time. And yes, at times, it just sounds like Ted singing.
Yeah.
Other rocky songs, he probably is a bit more of his own voice in there.
Yep.
And the only difference is that, from my point of view, being the drummer behind him, is Ted was always virtually in the one spot because he played bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas Steve just goes all over the stage, you know. He's more of a front man than Ted was, because Ted, like I said, Ted was a great front man in the fact of personality and stage presence, but he was limited to being a bass player as well, where he couldn't do as much as what Steve can do.
Well, I can understand what you're trying to say there, because you've got different bands. Well, just let's take the Angels, for example, and you've got Gleeso up the front. Now, Gleeso's, he does a bloody good job, but everyone refers to Gleeso as what? You know what I mean? Not as part of the Angels, but as the Jets.
Dave
As
Gleeson,
part of the Jets.
You know what I mean?
It's like if we got Angry Anderson or something, you know,
God help us.
Angry and all that history. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
And the other thing I was saying is, like Gleeso, when he's on stage, he's got too much energy compared to what, compared to Doc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really intriguing to see the difference, you know, like, and you mentioned Dragon. We're good friends with Dragon as well, especially Mark and Todd. And, you know, Mark does a fantastic job up on vocals. He doesn't move around a lot, but he plays guitar, which is very different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So playing an instrument where Mark didn't.
Yeah. But But where unfortunately Ted got tied down, not because of playing bass, but at the time you didn't have radio mics, so he didn't really have that opportunity.
He couldn't move around
to make that movement.
That's exactly right.
I'm wondering how much of a difference Ted could be.
Oh,
had he been able to use those radio mics at that stage.
Exactly.
And you might got a bit more of a view from the audience then, you know, instead of just looking at three sets of legs.
Exactly. But you know, like with Ted, although he played bass, when it came to singing, he was just stuck to that mic there, and he couldn't really move as playing bass. Whereas Steve can hold the mic and move around.
That's right.
You know, whereas Ted playing bass, you couldn't really hold a mic. You know.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we get that. Yeah.
When the band first released "Jump in My Car," that's when you really hit the stratosphere as far as Australian music was concerned. Did you suddenly think to yourselves, "Oh shit, we've made it"? Or how much pressure did you feel to actually follow it up?
I'll tell you a story. There was I call it the weekend that changed everything, because we were flying to Melbourne, and when we were flying, we had a sense of something was going to happen. You could smell it almost, right? There's a point in a band when you know you're going to just nearly get there.
Yep.
You can sort of feel it, because that weekend, Friday, we were playing at Maya Music Bowl with AC/DC, Sherbet, AC/DC, Little River Band, some other bands.
Yeah.
And when we were introduced on stage, there was just this thunderous screaming, 15,000 people, and we thought, hang on, how do they know us? Jump in the Car was still getting played but wasn't a hit.
Yep.
But they'd heard it, and they were starting to connect the dot between the band and that record.
Yeah.
And that Saturday afternoon, the next day, we filmed a countdown, right?
Yep.
With Jump in the Car.
Yeah.
Then we flew back to Sydney on the Sunday and played at the Hordern Pavilion with Hush to 5,000 people. So we played to 20,000 people, did a countdown. It was on countdown that Sunday night. And within a week, it had knocked Mamma Mia off the number one spot, was number one for 11 weeks.
Oh, no, that's awesome.
First song to actually knock ABBA off its number one shot.
Exactly.
Must have been wonderful.
Dark Strutter's Ball could not get past Fernando.
But tell me, you know, well, that's true. But tell me, you know what I mean? How you know, how much did it cost, and all the and how long did Ted take to get that mullet happening?
Oh, the mullet. Oh, yeah, well...
Oh, that's terrible.
Use sugar for gel.
Sugar? Jeez.
Yeah, use sugar for gel.
Oh, Jesus. And what about the barge? You knew how to... I was hoping that you either knew how to swim or you're going to use a drum kit for a floaty.
Oh, but that barge, that was...
That was...
we got to that from another wharf on a boat or something to get to that. And, you know, you've seen the clip with the girl that dives in and gets thrown out or picked up?
Yes,
Yeah.
We played in Brisbane last month, and a woman came up, and that was the girl.
Oh, right.
Did you get an up-to-date photo?
I'm Diana. I'm the Diana.
Yeah.
I'm the girl in the film clip that dived in the water.
You should have got an up-to-date photo of it just to stick on the Greatest Hits album.
That would have been awesome.
Yep. So that barge. We played there twice.
Yeah.
Once for Rocktober.
Yep.
And speaking of the Angels, the last time we played on that barge, we were a three-piece before Gary joined the band, and we were about to leave to play on a cruise to America and that.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted, we got rid of our bass player. Ted was playing guitar. So for that gig on the barge, the second time we had Chris Bailey from the Angels. He was in headband at the time.
Wow.
And we asked him to join us and come to America, but he couldn't because he had a court case on to do with headband, the band he was with. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So then when Ted went on the boat, I gave him a Hofner bass and said,
give it a shot.
Learn this. So we did a 9-week cruise as a three-piece, but we drew wages for 4 people. And on about halfway through, the captain and purser called us on and said, hey, you were on a shorter cruise before and there were 4 of you. He said, there's only 3 of you, but you're getting paid for 4. How do you figure that out? And I just said, we're working twice as hard to make up for the other guy. and honestly, the captain, to his credit, said, oh, fair enough.
Well, so you got to pay your liquor bill somehow.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right, son. You know.
Yeah. Just on a sour note, when did Ted first get you guys together and say, look, you know, this is what I'm battling, sort of thing, and what was going on, or did he keep it to himself?
No, what happened was we're in Brisbane, and he was complaining about having hot and cold sweats during the night, and he kept having them, and he thought he might be coming down with one, and then we're back in Sydney, and then after about a month, we're about to fly out to Melbourne for a run of Victoria.
Yeah.
And the night before we were supposed to fly, he said, oh, look, I'm cancelling Melbourne, we're not going. And the first thing I thought of is some promoter shafted us or something, you know?
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, I've been to the doctors and there's something wrong with my adrenal gland, and they're worried that if I'm out of town and it bursts and I can't get to a hospital within an hour, it's curtains, so I've got to stay in Sydney till they look at it further. And and then we had a couple of other gigs and lined up.
Yep.
And then when it was only when he went to another doctor that a doctor saw something else, and then he realised what he had. And then I said, I've got to cancel these gigs. And he kept holding on. Said, no, don't cancel them. And then he just got worse and worse. And he said, don't cancel them, I'll be right. And I said, Ted, I'm going to have to cancel these gigs, which I did. And then I organised a benefit for him where
yes, I remember that.
Masters, Apprentices, Sherbet, everyone and all that reformed for it, you know.
Yes. I do remember that. I remember the gig. It was
the Gimme Ted benefit.
Yeah, it was a great gig. It was a great gig.
Yeah, I was actually living in London in 2001 when Ted passed away, and I was desperately disappointed that I missed out on not only that benefit but everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
So bitterly disappointing. How deeply did it affect the rest of the band? I mean, obviously when you do lose somebody of that caliber, it hits hard. But do you remember exactly?
It does. I mean, Les was living in Newcastle. There was a problem. Gary had left the band, and Ted and Gary weren't close when he left the band, And when it came to the benefit, we're discussing, Ted's band should actually play.
Yeah.
It's his band. We should play at the benefit, so we'll play with Steve. And there was talk, who do we get on bass? And I said, well, it's about time we buried the hatchet. And I said, Gary will play bass. And I rang Gaz up.
Yep.
He said, yeah, how does Ted feel about it? And I said, mate, don't worry about it. You got to do it. And so Gary did it. And then I was talking to Ted, and I said, look, we're going to do a song. We've got to do 2 songs. We are your band, you know. We've got all these other bands, and we should do it. And we'll do it with Ted's, with your brother.
Yep.
And he said, oh, and who's going to play bass? I said, Gary. And he just smiled, and he said, I thought you'd get him. And then when Gaz turned up, they just hugged for about, quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
So, it was the best thing to have happened. Do you know what I mean?
That's
For
great.
sure.
No,
For
that's
sure.
fantastic, you know.
And so, that was really good. And, it was hard. It was hard, probably harder for me. Gary was out of the picture. Les was up in Maitland. And I was a guy that was visiting him once or twice a week all the time and seeing, because he was the only times I've ever heard him call me Herm, and in the third person where he says, I'll go and ask Herm, he'll tell you. But the only time I've heard him actually call me Herm is about 5 times, and that's when I've been in trouble for something, because every other time from the moment we met, he's called me pal. How's my little pal? Or, hey, pal, put the kettle on.
Yep.
So it affected me pretty hard, and especially going to see him all the time, and just seeing him deteriorate in front of my eyes,
Yeah,
It was hard, and it was hard for... I couldn't listen whenever, I'd have Foxtel or something and a clip had come on or I heard a record. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't listen to the voice. And then just recently when I was remastering all our stuff and that, it got pretty emotional there for a while, because after a song I'd actually hear him talking to through the speakers. How was that one? Do you want me to do it again? And stuff like that. I'd hear his voice.
Yep.
And then I'd have to isolate his voice to get a sound on it when I was mixing. So, yeah. But after that first day of hearing it, then after that, it was good. It was all right,
Well, thank you very much for giving us the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know how it feels, and we apologise if it did upset you.
No.
And we appreciate
I'm
that.
cool now,
Thank you.
but it did then.
Yeah. No, we get
he
that.
was, and people said, everyone has said he was a great guy and well liked, and the anecdote that I tell them just to show you what he was like is we were playing in Queensland somewhere, and the venue was at a pub, and those hotels, the gigs, they've got a motel attached to it.
Yes.
You know that?
Yep.
And we used to like those because you could just walk to the gig. But anyway, at about 8 o'clock or something, I said, hey, pal, you'd better finish up. We've got to eat and we've got to get ready. And he was playing darts with someone. And he said, hang on, I'll just finish the game. So he finished the game. He said, anyway, Ken, or whatever his name was, I'll see you later on tonight. He said, yeah, righto, Ted. See you then, mate. And as we were walking, I said, is that one of your old mates from the old days you bumped in or something? He said, no. I said, well, who was that guy? He said, the servo that we got petrol when we came into town? And I said, yeah. He said, that was a guy that served us.
Lovely.
So, a couple of hours later, it's his best mate. He's playing darts with him and having a beer with him, So
Well done.
that's the sort of guy he was.
Beautiful.
No, look, things like that are good to hear, because a lot of people actually don't.
You don't
get
hear
to
those
hear
wonderful antidotes about what happens away from stage,
That's right.
just general life.
And exactly, and it's amazing. All people think of is the person on the stage. It's great to hear things like that. Thanks.
You hear the human aspect is wonderful. So, all right, listen, Herm, we're going to let you go, but before we do, you guys are on at Revesby Workers' Cup.
His birthday bash, he would have been the big 7-0, and I should add, the rest of the band were way younger than Ted was, so don't even think that we're close to that age, right? But anyway,
we wouldn't say that, you old fart. I mean,
Teddy would have been 70,
Yep.
and the actual gig is actually on his birthday, on that Saturday, and because his anniversary of passing is the day before, there's a lot of people coming into state.
Yep.
So
it's going to be a big night.
90 minutes of music. We've got the screens happening like... with clips and stuff. We play, and that we get to do an AC/DC song because Mark's in the band, and halfway through, the band leave the stage, and Gaz does an acoustic version of Falling in Love Again, and Julia is a tribute to Ted, so it's going to be a big night.
That's going to melt a lot of people, I can tell you now.
That's September the 2nd, in a couple of weeks' time, September the 2nd, Revesby Workers Club.
Yep.
Get online now and get your tickets, because there's not many left.
Falling in love again.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah.
I've got to stop Ben every time he starts to sing because he just ruins every song. he gets
Oh,
onto.
come on.
So, listen to him. We'll let you
Gaz
go.
does a really good job of it, so come
good.
along on that Saturday night and watch it.
Well, the great thing is, I think I am actually free that night, so I'm definitely going to get there because Reesby Workers, from where I live,
Text me,
is only.
text me with the names, and I'll put your name on the door unless you've got a way of getting in anyway.
No, well, look, we could try and dress
We
up
could.
as Sheila's and get it. No, we'd get kicked out.
No, we won't. No. All right, Herm, listen,
All right, Herm.
we will definitely do that, and it'll be wonderful, actually, just to shake your hand and say thanks
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah,
and,
if we
you
can
know,
do that, it'd be fantastic.
thanks for
No,
the
that'd
memories
be
as
great,
well.
Not a problem. And there'll be lots of stuff. Sony have released the greatest hits.
Yep.
40th anniversary last year. Warner's released our Mushroom live with extended extra tracks on it.
Yep.
First time Jump McCar's appeared on the live album.
Yep.
Fantastic.
All that with T-shirts and beer mugs and Mark Evans's book and all that will all be sold at the merch table.
And are you guys going to be releasing an album? You just as trying to see whether or not you might do some new stuff, or
Yeah, I mean, I own a studio, and people have mentioned it. The fact of the matter is, I mean, like, I went to see the Searchers at Rudy Hill RSL 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
If I saw a greatest hits of all the original songs there, and if I saw a new album there, you know what I'm going to spend my money on, don't you?
the greatest, hits.
Exactly. It's a totally waste of time. I mean, what would you do if you came to that gig
Yeah.
and we did Jump McCar and Dark Down? The rest of the gig was all new stuff, and we were
Yeah.
getting off on it because we were excited at new stuff. No one would come again. You know, the reality of it is, Ted Mulry Gang, even though Ted Mulry's not in it, it's a brand name, right? It's a brand, and all
For
that
sure.
music is part of the brand.
It is.
And if you don't play that,
Yep.
You're
no
bugging.
one really gives a toss, really.
No, absolutely, Herm. No, look, absolutely agree.
No arguments here, mate. Well, look,
Yeah.
thanks excessively, man, for your time. Hope to catch up with you
On the
maybe
second?
maybe for a beer or seven on the second.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Shake your hand, say thanks very much, and get down and have some great fun with some great Aussie rock.
Good on you, mate. See you then, and thanks a lot.
Thank
No
you
worries,
very
Herm.
much,
Okay,
Herm.
have a good night. See you guys.
Oh, we may give you a call back very shortly. All right,
Just
to
off
give
air.
it,
Just off air. Just for a quick chat.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you soon, man.
All right,
See you,
bye.
mate. Bye.
Oh, what a lovely fella.
What can you say?
Hey,
What can you
that
say?
was an absolutely corker of the old.
Yeah. And you got to love all those little story antidotes, don't
love
you?
it.
Just in case you're wondering what they were sounding like and you don't know, here's a Darktown Strutters Ball on Retro Rock.
Later.
This is Renee. You're with Retro Rock Live with Ben and Mark.
So we want to start from the top line, baby, and really cook, honey. All right, ready? Yeah. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it.
On Retro Rock.